Welcome to part, whatever number this is, of our series on the signs or the miracles as found in John's Gospel. Now, I've been tidying this room. I think I've been tidying up as I've been recording these, and it's kind of organised. Although I probably should have hidden that, shouldn't I? That's something else. So the room's organised, which is nice. Anyway, I don't know what to say about that. I may not have even mentioned the room beforehand because I've had like a week off doing other things since I last recorded. So I don't know what I said. So hopefully this all makes sense. Anyway, we're looking at some of the miracles of Jesus. And this one is let me see which number miracle it is, or sign, I should say. This is the fourth sign. And it's in John chapter 6. So on my notes, it's very confusing. It says John 6, sign number 5. I mean, John would have done better if he just kind of neatly just put them in the same chapters, wouldn't he? Maybe cross-reference them. Anyway, I'm going to start, I think, by reading it. So this is there's a few short talks on this one, because partly the way that our pattern of Sundays are in Chelmsford Wood is that we have a DIY kind of talk the first Sunday of the month where we discuss it all together in small groups, and then we come back and share what we've discovered or what we thought or what we already know. And then another Sunday, which is what the next talk will be about, is from, we have it's called, if you like the Latin, it's called the Lectio Divina, or we like to call it the divine reading because our Latin's a bit rusty, which is really a way of listening to what God has to say to you, rather than the minister or the preacher telling you what you should be thinking. So let's take a read from John chapter 6. Jesus went across the Sea of Galilee. Now some people call it Tiberias. A huge crowd followed him, attracted by the miracles they'd seen him do among the sick. When he got to the other side, he climbed a hill and he sat down, surrounded by his disciples. It was nearly time for the feast of the Passover, kept annually by the Jews. When Jesus looked out and saw that a large crowd had arrived, he said to Philip, "Where can we buy bread to feed all these people?" Now he said this to stretch Philip's faith. He already knew what he was going to do. Philip answered, 200 silver pieces wouldn't buy enough bread for each person to get a piece. Now one of the disciples, it was Andrew, brother of Simon Peter, said, "There's a little boy here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish, but that's a drop in a bucket for a crowd like this." Jesus said, "Make the people sit down." Now there was a nice carpet of green grass in this place. They sat down, about 5,000 of them. Then Jesus took the bread, and having given thanks, he gave it to those who were seated. He did the same with the fish, and all ate as much as they wanted. When the people had eaten their fill, he said to his disciples, "Gather the leftovers so that nothing is wasted." They went to work and filled 12 large baskets with the leftovers from the 5 barley loaves. The people realized that God was at work among them in what Jesus had just done. And they said, "This is the prophet for sure. God's prophet right here in Galilee." Jesus saw that in their enthusiasm, they were about to grab him and make him king. So he slipped off and went back up the mountain by himself. So this is the fourth of the signs from John's Gospel. And for this one, I'd like you just to be curious about the story. So this is more of a short meditation. And then when I've finished talking, if only I would, when I've finished talking, revisit the story, go back in. Because often what happens when we read the Bible, particularly well-known stories like this, is that we read it, we've already been told in Sunday school what it means. That's the moral of the story, like it's some kind of Aesop's fable. And then we're done. Well, I know what that means. I can go about my day now. But today, for this one, I want you to savour the story, to taste it and to smell it and to touch it and to hear it. Take some time to ponder the event, rather than just focusing on what does it mean and then you're done. Because, and here we are once again into advanced spirituality, trademark. Advanced spirituality isn't about me telling you what you need to think about this reading. There's all kinds of dangers with that. I mean, there are dangers with letting people think for themselves, yes. But I think they're far less than the dangers when you're not allowed to think for yourself and you have to do what you're told. Advanced spirituality is about us learning how can we read and absorb and apply scripture in our lives. How can we live our lives in the light of the person of Jesus? That's advanced spirituality. So use your imaginative skills and use your analytical skills and consider the story. Imagine you'd found this story in the loft as an object and you turn it over in your hands. You get the smell and you feel the weight. That's what this story is. But a lot of us know it so well. We disregard it. Oh yeah, it's that one, the boy loaves. Cartoon picture of him holding fish. And that's it. But actually, there's depths in there. So I'm going to suggest in a few moments, when I finish talking, which mercifully I will, that you read the story again and you think about it. Notice. Who do you notice as you hear the story? What part do they play? What do they do? What do they not do? What would you do if that were you? In fact, which one would have been you? If you look at that story and you were there, where would you be? And how do you treat this as an event, as a sign, rather than simply as a metaphor? It just means this. How do we take this seriously? This is something that points on to something bigger. What's it pointing at? What's it showing us about Jesus? And why didn't they just say it? Why do we need this sign rather than just be told Jesus provides? What does the sign tell us? So you might want to think about Philip, or was it Andrew? You might want to think about the child. Did he know what's going on? What do you think about these adults coming over and nicking his food? What about the 12 baskets? What about Jesus just slipping away again? Like he did when he healed the man by the pool in the last episode. What's going on there? And if you read on, I wouldn't because it's a spoiler for the next one, Jesus does more things. He then gets into the teaching on the bread of life. So it's a sign, it's pointing to something else. The sign leads to the I am. What Jesus does, right? What Jesus does leads you to discover what Jesus is. But we stick with what Jesus does. We want him to do stuff for us, don't we? Look what Jesus can do for you. We use that in our evangelism, or don't we? Jesus can do this and do that. When actually Jesus wasn't about that. He slipped away. Anyway, this is a sign for those that wish to see it. Look to what it points at, not at the sign in its own right. This isn't a magic trick to entertain and win the crowds. This is a sign of who Jesus is. John chapter 6, verses 1 to 15. Read it again, and read it slowly and prayerfully and carefully. God bless. See you at the next one.